Tony Ferguson's career is officially over. And it really pains me to say that because Tony Ferguson, just a matter of 5 years ago, was considered one of the greatest fighters in UFC history and one of the most dominant fighters of all time, to now being known as the fighter tied for the most losses in UFC history, the most consecutive losses in UFC history, with BJ Penn at 7 straight losses. Tony Ferguson first bursted onto the scene on The Ultimate Fighter Season 13, Team Brock Lesnar versus Team Junior Dos Santos. He was a member of Team Brock Lesnar, and he already had a very charismatic and outgoing personality, already stirring up controversy on the show during a drunken night at the house. He sparked controversy with one of his teammates on the show, bringing up his kid, in which he was having a legal custody battle over his child.
You good?
Are you good?
He's looking at you.
Are you really getting serious?
Tony?
Look at me.
Be nice.
Look at me.
Where's your kid at?
Clean it for you.
Where's your kid at?
Tony, bringing up my son was definitely below the belt.
Where's your kid at?
Don't say it.
Hey, where's your kid at?
Don't say it.
It's a situation back home that, I've been fighting for over a year now to be in his life.
Hit me and say your kid. I tell you what. You know what? Hit me. Tony, relax, dude.
Shocked at Tony that he switched like that, so it's completely another person.
Where's your son? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? You're gonna disrespect him like that?
Serious?
You better watch
never
what
say on you.
Watch your mouth.
Tony,
Watch your mouth.
Stop it! Cut the No, come on. Let him go.
All the controversy aside, though, Tony Ferguson did land up winning that season of The Ultimate Fighter, defeating Ramsey Nijem via first-round KO. After that, he won his first 2 fights officially in the octagon against Aaron Riley and Eve Edwards, former UFC veteran at the time. His first setback in the octagon came to Michael Johnson, who was on the way to a title shot, which is nothing to hang your head about, but after that is when the ensuing legendary run began. He defeated guys like Mike Rio, Katsunori Kikuno, Danny Castillo, Abel Trujillo, Gleison Tibau, Josh Thompson, Edson Barbosa, Lando Venata, Rafael Dos Anjos, Kevin Lee, in which he won the interim lightweight championship from, Anthony Pettis, and Donald Cerrone. And at that moment in time, Tony Ferguson really cemented himself as one of the best fighters on the planet Earth. And in the midst of that legendary run, he was scheduled to fight Khabib 5 times. The first time, Tony fought Edson Barbosa, in which Khabib pulled out. Second time, Tony had to pull out. He injured his rib. The third time, Tiramisu Tuesdays was created, in which Khabib pulled out literally the day before their fight. That was the closest we've ever gotten to having that fight. The fourth time, Tony had to wear sunglasses inside, as if he was singing the song Sunglasses at Night, tripped on some wires, and blew out his knee. And then the fifth time, a global fucking pandemic had to stop this legendary fight from happening, because those were the 2 guys in which we needed to find out who was truly the best on the planet, because, again, they haven't fought. And in that moment in time, when the pandemic was at its height, people were trying to figure out, all right, how can Tony and Khabib still fight? Well, Dana said, I'm going to put on sports no matter what. I'm going to put on fights no matter what. I'm going to be the first person to come back and put on live sports. Tony was all about it. However, Khabib had other ideas. I'm going to get a ton of hate. I'm going to get a ton of slander. I don't give a shit, though. This is my humble opinion. Or you could call it humble. I don't care. But I believe Khabib ran from Tony this past time in which the fight was scheduled to happen. When the world shut down for COVID, Khabib decided to go back to Russia. And people are going to be like, oh, he was being there for his father because his father was having the virus at the time. His father passed away in July. Rest his soul, Abdul Manap. I'm sure he was a great guy. But he passed away in July. Khabib went back to Russia in April. The fight was scheduled for April 18th originally, but then it was rescheduled for the beginning of May. And had Khabib just stayed in the United States a little longer, I'm pretty sure that fight could have been put together just a little bit sooner, and we would have all gotten our finality that we needed to. So nonetheless, with Khabib not wanting to fight Tony, none other, the best person we had step in was Justin Highlight Gaethje. And this was the fight that would ruin Tony Ferguson's career forever.
Wait, what? This evening is ruined. The whole evening is ruined.
It began the downslope of 7 straight losses to Justin Gaethje, Charles Oliveira, Beneil Dariush, Michael Chandler, Nate Diaz, Bobby Green, and of course his most recent loss to Patty the Batty Pimblett. And all those losses that he's had, it seemed like he was really, really hesitant to pull the trigger. In the Beneil and Charles fight, he was caught in submissions that still to this day, I don't know how Tony didn't tap from those. The Michael Chandler fight was probably the closest fight in which we saw the old Tony resurface, putting the pressure on him, using his jab, walking Michael down, even rocking Michael to the point where, hey, we might see another Tony Ferguson clinic. But this happens to every fighter. He got caught, and it just happened to be the knockout of the year. But in each and every single one of those fights, he seemed truly, truly hesitant to pull the trigger. But what made this last loss so odd is that the fact that Tony Ferguson, during his training camp, was said to have trained with the one and only David Goggins. For those who don't know David Goggins, he's basically a motivational speaker of some sort. He weighed a few hundred pounds. He was a former Marine, managed to lose those few hundred pounds, and was able to find a way to turn boys into men, to weave out the soy boys in the world. And he's gained a massive social media following throughout his life. And many people, including myself and other MMA pundits and analysts and experts, were all thinking the same thing, and it's that Tony didn't need help from a guy like David Goggins. If anything, Tony could teach David a few things about how to live life his own way. But no, Tony landed up completing Hell Week, is what David's hard training camp, per se, for lack of a better term. He landed up completing it and passed with flying colors. Now, I will give David some credit. He didn't land up stealing the spotlight from Tony or his other cornermen, but many people just thought it was a little bit weird, because what I thought Tony needed help with was from the strategical aspect of fighting, from the skill aspect of fighting, from the positional aspect of fighting. Tony needed help in those aspects, not the mental aspect, because mentally Tony's a dog. He will always be a dog. He will always hold himself to the highest of standards mentally. But physically, like I just said, he seemed to have had mad struggles with pulling the trigger and what to do with the style of opponents in which he was fighting. But ultimately, it just landed up turning into a meme, and Tony is now tied with the most losses in UFC history as far as a losing streak goes. So there you have it. The ascent of Tony, the downfall of Tony. Truly, truly sad, considering that he was one of the greatest fighters in the world today. And many people were saying that he should have retired after he lost 3 in a row, 4 in a row, definitely after 5 in a row. But now after 7 straight losses, pretty brutal losses, might I add, I think it's definitely time that Tony hangs it up for good.